Standing on the Giza Plateau, looking up at the Great Pyramid of Khufu, your brain struggles to make sense of it. It's a mountain made by human hands. Built around 2560 BCE, it held the record for the tallest man-made structure on Earth for over 3,800 years. It contains roughly 2.3 million stone blocks, some weighing as much as a herd of elephants. Because it seems so impossible, we love to fill in the blanks with fantasy. You've heard the theories: lost technologies, Atlanteans, aliens, or the most common one, legions of slaves whipped into submission. But the real story is actually more impressive. It's a story of biology, physics, and the greatest project management feat in human history. Welcome to ChronoWis. Today, we are looking at the archaeological evidence to find out how the pyramids were really built. First, let's clear the debris. Why do so many people think slaves built the pyramids? You can blame the Greek historian Herodotus. Visiting Egypt 2,000 years after the pyramids were built, he was told stories about 100,000 oppressed workers. Hollywood ran with this idea. But biologically and archaeologically, this doesn't hold up. If you have 100,000 starving whipped slaves, you don't get precision engineering, you get a revolt. You certainly don't get the mathematical perfection we see at Giza. Then there's the ancient aliens, or lost civilization theory. The argument usually goes, people with copper tools couldn't cut granite, or we couldn't do this today. Actually, we could do it today. It would just be incredibly expensive. And suggesting that ancient Egyptians were too primitive to figure this out is actually a bit insulting to our ancestors. They didn't have lasers, but they had something arguably more powerful: infinite patience, unlimited manpower, and brilliant observational skills. The truth is, we have the tools they used. We have the quarries. And recently, we even found their lunch receipts. So, if not slaves or aliens, who built them? For decades, this was a guessing game. But in the late 20th century, archaeologists like Mark Lehner made a massive discovery near the pyramids: the lost city of the pyramid builders, known as Hayt el Ghurab. This wasn't a slave pen. It was a purpose-built corporate town. Archaeology reveals barracks that could sleep 1,600 to 2,000 men at a time, supported by massive bakeries and breweries. The trash dumps here tell a fascinating story. These workers were eating prime beef, sheep, and goat meat every single day, a diet much richer than the average Egyptian villager. They had medical care too. Skeletons found in the nearby workers' cemetery show signs of healed fractures and successful surgeries. If a slave breaks a leg, they are often discarded. These men were healed and put back to work. The current consensus puts the workforce at around 20,000 to 30,000 people. It worked on a system called corvée labor, a form of labor tax. When the Nile flooded every year and farmland was underwater, farmers were drafted by the state. They weren't paid in gold coins, but in rations: food, beer, cloth, and tax breaks. It was a national project. Some were highly skilled permanent masons. Others were seasonal haulers. They worked in teams with names like the Drunks of Menkaure or the Friends of Khufu. They took pride in their work, leaving graffiti of their team names inside the pyramid chambers. Okay, they were well-fed humans, but how did they cut massive stones with primitive tools? For the limestone blocks that make up the core, they used copper chisels. Copper is soft, but so is limestone. By using wooden mallets and constantly resharpening the copper, you can cut blocks fairly quickly. For the harder granite used in the king's chamber, they used dolerite pounders, hard, baseball-sized rocks. They would literally bash the granite for hours until it pulverized into dust. It was brutal, slow work, but it worked. Before laying a single stone, they had to level the base. They likely cut a grid of trenches into the bedrock, filled them with water, and marked the water level. This allowed them to create a base that is level to within just 2 centimeters across the entire 13-acre site. They aligned the pyramid to true north with incredible precision, not using lasers, but by tracking the stars, specifically the circumpolar stars that never set. using a simple sighting tool called a merket. But how do you move a 2.5-ton block? The wheel hadn't been invented for heavy lifting yet. They used wooden sledges. But dragging a sledge over sand creates friction. Sand piles up in front of it. The solution? Water. Physicists have confirmed that wetting the sand in front of the sledge reduces friction by up to 50%. We actually have an ancient painting from the tomb of Jehudihotep that shows a worker pouring water right in front of a colossal statue being dragged. It wasn't a ritual, it was lubrication. And finally, the biggest question: how did they get the stones up? Most archaeologists agree on ramps, though the shape is debated. A straight ramp would eventually need to be a mile long to keep the slope gentle. A zigzag ramp climbing the face is more likely. There is also the internal ramp theory, proposed by architect Jean-Pierre Houdin, suggesting a spiral tunnel inside the pyramid allowed workers to carry stones to the top. While we haven't found the definitive ramp yet, we have found remnants of haulage ramps at other quarries, proving this was their method. The engineering is cool, but the logistics are mind-blowing. In 2013, we found the smoking gun of pyramid construction. At an ancient port on the Red Sea called Wadi al-Jarf, archaeologists discovered the Diary of Merer. This is the oldest papyrus ever found. It is literally a logbook written by a middle manager named Merer. He describes in detail transporting high-quality white limestone from the Tura quarries to the Great Pyramid by boat. Merer confirms that the Nile was the highway. The Egyptians dug massive artificial canals and harbors right up to the foot of the Giza plateau. They utilized the annual floodwaters to float the heaviest stones almost to the construction site. This required a unified government. To build the Great Pyramid in roughly 20 to 30 years, workers had to set a block every 2 to 3 minutes during daylight hours. To support this, the state had to supply, by some estimates, 4,000 pounds of meat and thousands of loaves of bread every single day. This wasn't just a construction project, it was an economic engine that unified the upper and lower kingdoms of Egypt. When we look at the pyramids today, stripped of their shining white casing stones, we are looking at the skeleton of a civilization's ambition. We don't need to invent aliens or lost magic to explain them. Doing so actually robs humanity of the credit. The Great Pyramid is a monument to the power of the human mind, the strength of human muscle, and the ability of a society to organize toward a single, sky-high goal. The ancient Egyptians didn't have computers or cranes. They had copper, stone, water, and the will to build something eternal. And 4,500 years later, we are still talking about them. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the engineering of the ancients, be sure to like and subscribe to ChronoWis. Let us know in the comments. Which ancient wonder do you want us to decode next? Thanks for watching.